All right, Central. Welcome back to our Strengths-Based Culture Initiative series. I'm so excited to be here with you. And as you know, if you followed along with us, a lot of our convictions here come from what we see in the beginning of the Bible in the story of Genesis. And there's a moment I just want to highlight tonight where Adam and Eve are standing there with the serpent. And they have these two choices. Right? Adam and Eve are standing there and they have these two choices. Am I going to choose life or am I going to choose knowledge? Am I going to choose God or am I going to choose the ability to know good and evil? And they know, like deep down, they have been taught, it lives within inside their image bearer status. They know that God is life to the fullest. And we're not given like a lot of leeway in understanding what happens in this moment. We don't know how long it took. We don't know what it was like when they were sitting there. We're not given into their thoughts, but we know there was this moment, this brief moment where they have this choice and they're staring at both trees and they veer away from God and towards the other tree. They, for a moment, forgot their purpose and lost everything. But again, as we kind of highlighted last week, like this interesting thing happens where God decides to continue to bring them into his story and into his purpose by setting a people apart for them. And he says, I'm going to send a boy, I'm going to send a man, and he's going to come through your guys' seed, and he will be the one that crushes the head of the serpent. He will be the one that takes on the transgression for the tribe and ultimately restores humanity back. And so God, through the covenant with Abraham, sets apart a people for himself, and he says, "I'm going to number the stars. I'm going to number I'm going to take the number of the stars. That's how many children you have. The grains of the sand, and you will be a light to all people." And that's the purpose that God has given Central today, is to be a light to the people, to be a city on the hill, set apart, a people that are shaping culture, a people that are carrying out this purpose to restore mankind back to its state in the garden. It's a cool mission to be on. And so Central's part in it is leading us to talk about the idea of values tonight. So last week we asked the question, where can I best contribute? And I got a lot of cool feedback on that. It was exciting to hear some of the realizations that you, our Central family, got through that exercise. Tonight we're going to ask, what are your values? So you're going to be asking yourself, what are my values? So a value is a deeply held belief that possesses the ability to influence decisions and actions. It's this thing within us that drives how we live. And the thing about values is that all individuals have values. Whether they can name it or not, they have these deeply held beliefs that drive thoughts and feelings and behaviors. They have these beliefs that drive their decisions. They might not have names for them, but they still have those beliefs, those values. And alongside individuals, organizations also have values. And in order to best contribute within an organization, our individual values have to either complement or enhance the group values. So when we think about groups, we think of families, clubs, we think of friendships, we think of businesses, and tonight we're thinking of churches, right? Central is a church, so that's the values that we're looking at. So if you look on the board, you're going to see two lists. The first one are my personal values. And I won't go into the definitions too much tonight, but I'll just say, just in case you can't read it, it's intentionality, significance, holistic health, beauty, and mentorship. Those are my 5 personal values. And right alongside of it, you have Central's values, which are spirituality, Generation Next, passionate worship, intimacy, and generosity. So through a value process, I have determined these are the names of the beliefs I have that influence my decisions made and my actions taken. Through a group series, we have determined that these are Central's values. These are the beliefs that we have as a group that influence the decisions we make and the actions that we take. And if you side by side them, you'll see there's nothing that really contradicts the other list. Like, I don't have a value that contradicts one of the values within Central's list. I would even say my values enhance Central's values, as an individual's values should within an organization. So tonight I'm asking you the question, what are your values? You might have a list, you might know, but if you don't, I want us to run through an exercise to determine what your values are. All right, so we're going to do an activity together, and what you're going to do after each of these questions is you're going to hit the pause button on the video, and you're going to take around 1 minute to answer these questions. Now, if you need more time, totally fine. We would just encourage you to try to do this activity in one sitting and try to give yourself around 1 minute to answer each question so you can get your initial reaction. All right, so now we're going to ask some questions. The only rule for these questions is that you don't filter yourself and you don't judge yourself. I want you to write down what just automatically comes up when you think of these questions. Don't try to make it sound flashy. Don't judge yourself for thinking that, because we're trying to find what those actual values are in your life. So the first question we're going to take 1 minute with is, what do you spend most of your time doing? Or what do you choose to spend most of your time doing? We'll see you back in 1 minute. All right, the second question that we're going to ask is, what do you find yourself thinking about most often? When you daydream, what's on your mind? When you're planning something, what's on your mind? When you have time to sit and think, what are you thinking about? So we're going to take 1 minute with the question, what do you find yourself thinking about most often? We'll see you back in 1 minute. All right, the next question is, what do I find myself spending money on? Now I know, like, we all spend money on groceries, we're all spending money on bills, but when you have a little bit of extra money, what do you find yourself choosing to spend money on? We'll take 1 minute with that question. All right, the next question is, where do you find yourself giving the most effort? What do you put most of yourself into? We'll take 1 minute with that question. All right, the next question is, what causes me to worry or to be angry? What causes me to worry or to be angry? We'll take 1 minute with that question. All right, and the final question is, what qualities of character do I notice or admire in others? Who are the people I admire, and why do I admire them? We'll take 1 minute with that question now. This list of questions comes from the value process within some of my friends' church curriculum that's called The Journey. It's a group called Vantage Point 3, and they make awesome church curriculum. But I appreciate these questions because they're real life applicable. Everyone can answer what they spend their time doing. Everyone can find themselves asking, what am I thinking about? Everyone can answer what they're spending money on. Everyone can answer what they spend their time on. Everyone can say, this is what worries me. And everyone can say, what qualities of character do I notice? in others. And so this is one of those activities you could run through with your children. Like, you could ask these kids these questions and help them start to think about their values. Now, after you've answered these questions, I would encourage you to take some time, look over your questions, and ask yourself, what are my 5 values and what would I name them? So values should be specific, they should be definable, and you should be able to describe it in one word. If you're having trouble finding those words, a quick Google search of value list will immediately come up with blog posts about different words you could use to describe values, and we'd encourage you to take advantage of that. Anyways, we have a strengths conversation coming up with one of our students, and we will see you next week. All right, Central, welcome back. I'm sitting here with one of our students, Dalton Wolf, and this week we're doing it a little bit differently. So Dalton and I both have jobs, and so the easiest thing for our schedule was to Zoom, despite the fact that we live like 5 minutes from each other. So here we are. So Dalton's 5 themes are competition, restorative, adaptability, command, and self-assurance. So Dalton, you've been in the college group a while. You have gone through strengths conversations. You went through our Imago Day series where we talked about strengths, and this is going to be a little bit different because tonight I'm just going to ask a couple questions to highlight 2 of your strengths because you have a pretty strong command and competition pairing. So the definition of command is someone that is inspired to take charge. They're not afraid to make an impact on others where people would normally be afraid. And then the definition of competition is they are constantly evaluating things and making comparisons about which is better. And so I guess I want to start off by asking the question, who do you compare yourself with?
I don't think that it's ever just a single individual person.
Okay, how many lanes of comparison?
It's incomparable. It's an incomparable comparison.
Okay.
So it's like every person I come in contact with, it's a competition, but it's a conversation.
Oh, okay.
But it's not like I'm one of those people that has to one-up you with my stories.
Sure.
So the part of me that finds the need to have competition probably stems from a much younger time in my life, being a child starting off at 3 years old playing baseball. Mm-hmm. Probably had quite a bit to do with my competitive nature. I would say I don't know that necessarily a competition in every person per se.
Okay.
But definitely a need for them to know that, like, together we can be number one.
Oh, okay.
Like, I want them to know that always they should want somebody like me on their team.
Got it.
It's not so much as like I'm competing against you, like in this conversation we're having. It's that I want to show you that I can be a strong, valuable asset to what it is you're doing.
Gotcha. So do you feel like when you're comparing yourself with someone, like, I guess you're looking for, if I'm understanding this right, like you're looking for the things that you can pair with them?
Yes.
Okay, so you're trying to build a team.
Everything that I do, I try to be relatable with that person. Mm-hmm. Because even the people that are uncomfortable with the conversation, even like face-to-face conversation or even through Zoom like we're having right now, I feel like if you are relatable with those people, there is a common ground and it eases maybe their stress or discomfort that they're having in that situation.
Gotcha. I love that, man. Like, I love that idea of just like, even if you don't know what the game is, you're still building the team. Right. So I guess that kind of leads me to like one of the question, like why do you compete? Or another way to ask that question would be like, why do you compare?
Like I said, the reason for both of those is probably a lot to do with the fact that I started baseball at 3 years old.
Yeah.
Because even I don't, it's crazy that I don't remember my first baseball game. You know what I mean? Like I was playing baseball before I had memory.
Yeah.
So I think competition and comparison was always there. I do feel like I have the mindset for competition and comparison though. Like not because of baseball, but because other things. You know, like I've grown up, I'm a boy in Oklahoma. I play a lot of video games. We go hunting, we play sports, we go fishing, blah blah blah. So to me, I heard this actually from the comedian Kevin Hart. Life is like a video game. And so that just clicked with me that if I can compare everything that I do with every interaction I do, with every mistake or success, that it is a video game, then there's always another life and you can retry that.
Sure.
So that's how I compete and compare. I know that this person may have other attributes like a video game that I might not have, but I know that I have those other attributes they don't have. And I know together we might be able to climb up on a structure or something like that. Just
Got it.
Figuratively speaking, but still it's the video game mentality is what I like to call it, because it keeps me separated from an emotional attachment to something you can't control.
Wow. The game is life.
The game is life.
I'm a fan.
And that's what's crazy is like there's the board game, the game of life, but like in reality, life's a game, and if you can make it a game and disassociate yourself with the negativity and the evil, and associate other things like those strong attributes of other people, then you can coincide that with everything you do every day.
Yeah. I'm so right on with that line of thinking. The game, it's life, and are you gonna win is a really good question.
And I feel that's another thing though, is like you're never, the game of life is the game of life competing with yourself. And so there is nobody in this game, because it's your path. Nobody else has the same path as you. So as you're going through your levels of life in the game of life, only you can beat yourself. So it's like as if you were to beat that level, you get a high score, you have so many points. If you didn't like how you did that, you can try to get a higher score next time.
Right, yeah.
So it keeps you wanting to be a better person, and you're competing with yourself, but that also, again, translates to other people, because you can show them that I'm not competing with you. It's 100% a competition with myself, and I want to show you that together we can beat me, and I'm sure together we can beat you as well.
Right. So I guess that leads me to kind of think about like what happens when you realize that you're playing a game you can't win. Like, what's that like for you?
It's not.
Because we're talking a lot about winning, but what happens when winning's taken out of the equation?
You can always win.
Oh, you think so?
You can. You really can. Because I firmly believe that even if there is no winning or losing, there's perspective.
Okay.
And if there is perspective with winning and losing is all taken away, I can still have the perspective within myself and set a goal within whatever it is we're going to accomplish.
Okay.
So it's never the fact of I'm going to win or lose. It's just the fact of I can beat myself. So if I can do that and be better than I was yesterday, I won today.
Okay.
So you never lose. You never don't have a winning aspect.
So give me an example of that, of like when, like by the world's definitions you lost. Give me an example of the win in that.
Today I lost.
Okay, let's hear it.
Today I let my emotions control how I was going to let the rest of my day play out. But the positive side in that is I recognized that at about 3 o'clock today. I
Okay.
recognized that for the past 3 hours, I had been dwelling on something that was out of my control that had happened. Maybe somebody made a small remark or somebody hurt my feelings in some way. But I made another comment. I was talking to my wife, Madison, and I made the comment that I didn't like the way I'd lived the past 23 years. For 23 years, I felt like I didn't do anything. But that's not to say that there aren't 72 great years ahead of me.
Sure.
So I feel like today I lost, but I gained the perspective to be successful tomorrow and to carry that throughout the rest of my life. So yes, today I did have a losing day, but I feel like as the day progressed, I controlled how I'm going through the level. So instead of having that losing, evil, bad character boss at the end of the level beat you and you lose all your lives and have to start over that level, I got and just got to progress through it.
Wow. So you find the win in the comparison.
You have to.
I love it.
It's the power of positivity.
I'm there, man. I'm there. So what, I guess, kind of shifting from competition to command, what does being a leader mean to you?
Being a leader, I've always felt the want to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And the older I get, the less I want that.
Okay.
Because I do feel leadership it's vital in most scenarios. There's got to be somebody that can direct. It's very unlikely that a group can agree on something cohesively and carry that out to its end, as they stated in the beginning.
Sure.
So to me, there is a need for leadership, but I don't think you should desire it. I don't think it's something that you can't, I don't think it should overcome you. You shouldn't be able to not function without the ability to lead someone else. Because then how are you ever going to grow if you're leading others?
Right.
At some point, you have to be the student. So that's kind of where for a long time, I felt like I needed that command position, only I felt like it was just to be heard.
Right.
Like maybe it was a flaw within my character trait that command was so strong for me. But I did find out that command can be a very good asset if you stop looking at the negative sides to how you were using it and to how you can, again, progress it and learn with it. If that
No, that does make sense. And that kind of makes me think of like, because you highlight the importance of like being the student and being the teacher. So I would ask a two-part question of who are you leading and who are the people that you consider to be your leaders?
I feel like there's a lot of leading for me I feel like the easy answer is, younger generations, but it's true because they do have to have somebody to look up to. So in some way or another, I like to think that I'm a leader to even just Madison's brothers because they're just a little bit younger, or, my niece and nephew because they're, 4 and 9. So there's a lot of things that they don't know yet and don't understand. So I feel like that's my place to take. I do feel like I lead my wife in some way, but I don't feel like it's a one-sided leadership. I feel like we lead each other. And then I would feel like that's kind of the middle ground. I went from, leading, middle ground to we lead each other. And then on the teaching or the learning side of it, I would absolutely say you and Blake Earnhardt, first off. And then I would even go as far to say people, it's hard to say this, but people that speak the truth. So if you can find, something spiritual based that is factual from the Bible that leads you to an epiphany that makes you a better person, that's somebody I would like to listen to because they're speaking a truth that I need to hear. So in some way or another, it would probably be like theologians, but not to the fact that like I know their names. You know what I mean? It's like people I look up to and I want to admire and listen and accept everything that they're bringing in, but I'm not necessarily giving them the idolatry that other people could have given.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're more likely to be led by someone's words if they're like personally pouring into your life?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you would. I think just kind of knowing you a little bit. Can you give me an example of that?
Rephrase the question.
Yeah. So I think being so similar with you and kind of having some like similar themes, for me, a lot of times, like I can listen to someone's words and utilize their words, but I put a lot more stock in letting their words influence me if I have a relationship with that person. And I almost like stop putting stock in their words, like once that friendship has kind of moved on.
Right.
What's like an example of that in your life of like, I listen to this person's words, but I put more stock in it because they actually have a relationship with me.
My best friend, Reed Kinder.
Okay. I love Reed.
Man, Reed is without a doubt one of the smartest people I know. Mm-hmm. Hands down, the man, God gifted him with brains.
Yeah. And he's
so
just a total sweetheart.
I know that he's at an intellectual level that's probably above mine.
Okay.
But it's not that is his words meaning. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the fact that I know that he knows what he's talking about. It's that I've had a relationship with Reed since kindergarten, and we've held that relationship all the way until we're 23 years old.
Yeah.
So, because he's kind of grown up to be my brother, brother I never had. So I would put a lot of stock into what Reed has to say, just about in anything, because of the relationship I have. Whereas somebody else like Tyson DeGrease talking about world theory and whatnot, I don't put much stock into that because I don't personally know that guy.
Right. I still like when Neil Tyson talks, though.
I love Neil Tyson. I listen every time.
Yeah. So I guess wrapping up, when have you seen an event led well?
When have I seen an event led well? That's a tough one, Cameron. I don't know about that one.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm trying to think of like events that I've been to lately.
Back when we went to them.
Yeah, back when events were a thing. So I guess we could not an event, but a get together, you could call it.
Okay.
Me and Maddie, we went to a Bible study that it's the mother of my brother-in-law.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law. They were doing a Netflix series, so it's not necessarily a Bible study, but it's a Jesus-centered get together.
Yeah.
So there's a Netflix special. I think it's called American Gospel, Christ Alone, something like that. And so we started that series, but it was a small group of us. So there was me and my wife, another couple, and then the mother and father of one of the couples. So we got there and they had tacos and nachos and meat and everything set up. It's much like a Cameron Bishop get together where there's often fajita meat or some kind of food to help everybody kind of, get a meal in, and also kind of it settles you down just because food's comfort. You know what I mean? Like wherever
Mexican
you
food has that way. Yep.
are, Mexican food, it makes everybody
Yep.
happy. So we did that, and then and we didn't know one of the couples, so it was kind of a little bit of an uncomfortable situation. But we got there and we ate, we met them, mingled a little bit, and then we started the series. And then after we sat and talked about it and reflected on how each person felt, but it wasn't like a called upon scenario where it's like, so what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? It was more or less like, so what I gathered from this series is this, and then explain how you felt about that, and other people would pick up on that. So what I'm getting at is that every now and again, one of us couples would get off track, something would happen that was funny, and we'd go off on a story talking about that. But it was always nice to have that mother and fatherly figure bring us back home to the Jesus-centered conversation we were having.
Sure.
So in a way, I would say that was a well-structured event because of the way that it was set up and played out and structured.
Wow. I'm a fan of that, man. That's great.
Yeah.
As we're kind of inviting, like it's weird because this is a conversation we've been having for a long time. Like strengths-based language has been a huge part of the college ministry. And now as you're kind of like graduating, like you've seen this through, like you've seen what this language does. But now we're inviting a bigger audience into this like strengths conversation. Do you have anything that you feel like the other members at Central need to know about the strengths-based language or this idea before they move forward in it?
My number one thing, I can say this because I've always, not always because I'm trying to change, be a better human, but you have to have an open mind.
Yep.
You have to be receptive to the information that's being thrown at you. Because I remember when Cameron talked about this and we started talking about our strengths and weaknesses, and then he told me that our weaknesses are actually strengths, that I might as well have walked out because I stopped listening.
I
think, and that's sad. It really is. It truly is sad. I apologize, Cameron, but
you're good, bro. I can take it.
I will say that it seemed like after I had stopped thinking about it, after we had kind of even moved into a different study, it was more prevalent than anything else we had ever talked about. Because it's not, those books you read, or those series or webinars, seminars, podcasts, etc., where it feels like there's a preacher and he's shoving the gospel down your throat, and it's heaven or hell, pick one and don't be wrong.
Yep.
Strengths-based training is not, it can't be like that, because it's so available in every person, and it's so available in your everyday life that you can't avoid it. Right. You will see it in yourself, you will see it in other people, and it's done more for me personally than I could ever speak for any other thing, that I've learned in a church setting. Just because I've gone from a stone cold, heartless person to somebody that, genuinely cares about what other people do, feel, say, what kind of day they had. I used to never think about that. And so, even though I had a bad day today, there was one thing that kept coming back to me, and it was that I don't know what kind of bad day they're having. So if I can be the positivity in their life and push forward, then it can possibly help their day along with mine.
Wow.
I would not have learned that without strengths-based training, Cameron.
I love that, Dalton. That gives me chills. And I hope, as someone who loves you and cares about you and has seen you grow tremendously over the last several years, I I hope people really take those words powerfully, because you don't just say words. Like
No.
you don't just give words away. And so when you say something, to me, it matters. And my hope and my encouragement is that people at home would really take those words seriously and dive into it. Anyways, Dalton, thank you so much for helping out with this. We got to hear from your wife, Maddie, a couple weeks ago. Next week we'll have a different college student, but you are awesome, man, and I'm so proud of you. And Central, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We'll see you guys next week.
And boom goes the dynamite.